Hello everyone, my name is Parmida Heydari. Today we are going to learn Kubernetes Authorization. When a client makes a request to API server, it must be authorized. The API server evaluates all requests against all policies, then allows or denies the request. Several attributes are evaluated. User attributes, information about the user making the request, including their username and groups. Resource attributes, detail about the resource being accessed, such as its type. Action attributes, the action being requested, such as get, list, create, or delete. These are common verbs. Environment attributes, information about the request environment. These attributes are crucial in determining whether a request should be allowed or denied. Authorization modes. Kubernetes employs several types of authorization modes to control access to its resources. The main authorization modes are ABAC, RBAC, Node Authorization, and webhook. ABAC, Attribute-Based Access Control. This method uses policies that combine various attributes to guarantee access rights. RBAC, Role-Based Access Control. This is the most commonly used method where permissions are assigned based on roles assigned to the user or groups. Roles define what actions can be performed on a specific resource within a namespace or across the entire cluster. Node authorization. This mode is specific to kubelets and allows them to manage pods they are responsible for. Webhook authorization. In this mode, Kubernetes queries an external service to determine if a request should be authorized. Let's hands-on. By running kubectl ask can I, with the action and the resource, I can check if I'm allowed or not. Now it means that I can create a deployment. For example, kubectl ask can I list secrets. Yes, I am authorized to list secrets. Let's take a deep look at RBAC. RBAC is a method that uses a role to guarantee access. RBAC provides 4 API objects: role, cluster role binding, and cluster role binding. Role and cluster role. An RBAC role or cluster role contains rules that represent a set of permissions. A role always sets permission within a particular namespace. When you create a role, you have to specify the namespace. Cluster role, by contrast, is a non-namespaced resource. Kubernetes object always has to be either namespaced or non-namespaced. It can't be both. If you want to define a role within a namespace, use a role. If you want to define a role cluster-wide, use a cluster role. We will take a look at examples then. Role binding and cluster role binding. A role binding guarantees the permission defined in a role to a user or set of users. It holds a list of subjects and a reference to the role being guaranteed. A role binding guarantees permission within a specific namespace, whereas a cluster role binding guarantees that access cluster-wide. Let's learn what is service account. A service account is non-human resource that provides distinct identity. A service account used to control access, secure API access. Control access. They help manage what actions can perform on resources in the cluster. Secure API access. They provide a secure way to communicate with the Kubernetes API without hardening credentials. Default service account. When you create a cluster, Kubernetes automatically creates a service account object named default. How to use a service account? To use a service account in Kubernetes, create a service account by kubectl, then guarantee permission to the service account object using an authorization such as RBAC. Assign the service account object to a role or cluster role. Consider that service accounts use JWT to authenticate to the Kubernetes API server. You can bind a service account to a role or bind a service account to a cluster role. Let's take a look at an example. Here I have a service account YAML file. I want to create my service account in the default namespace. By running kubectl apply, I create a service account, and by running kubectl get service account, I can see here my service account is created. This service account will be used to authenticate with the Kubernetes API, allowing to perform actions based on permission guaranteed to this account. Now let's create a role. I want to perform these actions on a specific resource: get, watch, list, on pods. I create a role by running kubectl get roles, I can see here pod reader role is created. This role allows access to the pods in the default namespace. Each service account bound to this role can read pod information. Now let's create a role binding. I want to bound pod reader role to my service account. By running kubectl apply, I create my role binding. By running kubectl get role binding, I can see here read pods binding is created. This role binding allows my service account to perform actions in the pod reader role within the default namespace. Now I want to create a cluster role. Here I have cluster role. I want to perform the same actions on pods, but here I want to perform these actions in all namespaces. By running kubectl apply, I create my cluster role. By running kubectl get cluster roles, I can see my cluster role, which is cluster pod reader. Now I want to create my cluster role binding. I want to bound cluster pod reader to my service account. Cluster role binding. Here by running kubectl get cluster role binding, I can see it is created. Cluster read pods binding. The cluster role enables access to the pods across all namespaces, and cluster role binding allows my service account to perform actions defined in the cluster pod reader across all namespaces. By following these steps, you can effectively bind a service account to both roles and cluster roles. So today we explore Kubernetes authorization. Thank you so much for spending your time with me.